Yeah. Well, people are going to want to know. They feel like they know you, if even if they don't know you. You've
Mhm.
shared about yourself, your family, and they're going to want to know. We all want to know how you are and how your family is.
We're making it through. My thing, and I keep saying this to them, we just have to do it 5 minutes at a time. And I think it's been a really important lesson on many levels for my younger son, my 15-year-old son, but also, I think it was really hard for him to, as much pain as he was in, to see the depth and breadth of what I was going through, which, children don't normally see their parents go, curled up in the ball shrieking, and so, but I said I think it's been a really good lesson for him, because I just said, look, the only way to get through this is by letting the emotions pass through us, and you just have to be prepared that I'm going to cry most of the time, and that is just equal to the amount of love, that I had for your brother. And it was really big, but we'll all get through it. And I think that's, even if I can't see how we're going to get through it, I know we'll get through it.
And you said that what is helping you with a modicum of the pain is to share this. And
Yeah.
you've shared so much wisdom and wise advice and information with people in Chicago and around the country. Um, why? What is it that you want people to know?
Well, I didn't, I'm so grateful for the support and the outpouring of coverage and help, holding different parties accountable. My initial intention was just, I felt so overwhelmed, but not only with grief, but with helplessness and rage. And and it was actually I was just like dying. And my husband said, maybe it would help, because he knows that it always helps me, to help others. It's always been my process, even. And he's like, and I said, yeah, you're right. If I could save one life from my little group of followers tonight, then it's worth it. And so I shared that, never imagining it would go viral. But it's been so beautiful, because being able to, it helps me lift the helplessness part. It doesn't help the grief or the loss, but with the helplessness alleviated, it allows me to hold the pain a little bit better, at least for me.
And what I saw in so many of the comments were other parents.
I mean, I actually started a Facebook group. I didn't know what else to do, because I was getting hundreds and hundreds of parents reaching out to me with the same tragic story about their babies, their children. And it has been astounding to me. I had no idea that fentanyl poisoning, fentanyl lacing was as prevalent as it was. I had no idea that Snapchat, I mean, the main thing I focused on with my kids about Snapchat, which admittedly, like most parents, I let them do a lot more of during the pandemic shutdown so they could connect with their friends. The big thing I was worried about were the nude shots and the inappropriate comments. And, it didn't even occur to me that drug dealers would go to this place where children hang out and prey on them. And it certainly didn't occur to me that Snapchat would not make that information available to the police about the drug dealers in order to find them. All they'll do is take down, this is what the police told me when they were at my house, that all they do is take down the profile of the dealer, but then they just pop up a new one with a new name. And both Twitter and Snapchat, the Santa Monica police told me they don't even bother with, because they don't help.
So, what led you to s- the connection to Snapchat?
Our sons, I reached out to our son's best friend when it happened, because it was like an hour before he had eaten a cheeseburger he asked his father to make. And I went into his room and was fine and happy and I love you. And I went into his room an hour later to talk, because he wanted to talk. He asked me to come up at some point to talk about an internship he wanted to do this summer to get ready, to beef up his college applications that he was really focused on. And, he was lying on the floor, gone. And when the police came, or the ambulance came, the paramedics tried for 30 minutes to revive him and couldn't. And between them and the police, they said it was a classic. They'd been just seeing a rash of this, of a classic fentanyl poisoning of some sort. The way that he was lying flat on his back with, in vomit, that was likely what happened. And so when I reached out to his best friend, like, do you have any ideas? Like, what did he have? What could he have possibly taken? He told me that Sammy had somehow, that this dealer had connected with Sammy, and our son had sent a a screenshot of this dealer's very colorful product list and price list and contact information, like an Uber of drugs that he'll bring to your house. And so he sent that to me, and it had the dealer's Twitter handle and Snapchat handle or name or whatever. And I showed it to the police, who were still at our house, and they said, thank you, but don't get your hopes up, because we won't be able to figure out who this is through Snapchat or Twitter. They won't help us identify who these people are, which is just insane to me. I can't even wrap my head around that.
And that's why you wanted to share this information.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to share it. I just wanted to save a child. Just one would make a difference. And I had no idea how prevalent this was around the country, not just in Los Angeles. The DEA has said on the news, as they've been covering this, that you only need 2 milligrams of fentanyl to overdose, and it's really considered more of fentanyl poisoning than an overdose, because it's not intentional, and it is poisoning the system. And that these kids, bored at home during the pandemic and wanting to experiment, like any teenager, unfortunately, thinks they're infallible and immortal, and tries a thing or two if they can get away with it. And I wanted people to know that those quote unquote innocent experimental things you may be doing are likely, because it seems to be everywhere, laced with fentanyl, which they do, so they'll get you addicted. It's more addictive than heroin. And so if you survive it, you're, a bona fide, like, you have serious addiction issues. And usually you don't survive it.
Tell me about Sammy. He wanted to do a summer internship, and he
had a lot of plans. And he was, he did great in school, even through the pandemic. He was doing amazingly well. He was already working on his college applications as a junior. He really, at New York University was his first choice. He loved, I called him my little Renaissance man, because he was always so curious from the time he was a baby. And during this pandemic, he was figuring out the stock market and investments and wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then he made a self-sustaining biosphere for his chameleon. And then he filmed it in, slow motion, or whatever that speed motion is, where you can see over many days or weeks how the thing grows. I mean, he was always researching things and exploring things, and was unbelievably sweet, and kind, and full of dreams.
And so he was he was in school in Chicago, right? Because a lot of people in Chicago know him, right?
Yeah.
And so he was 16.
He was 16 and a junior. We lived in Chicago through, I guess, when we moved to LA, he was in 8th grade. So he was in school his entire life through 7th grade.
And so this literally just happened, right?
Yeah, it just happened on Sunday.
And did you have any idea, you mentioned, and all parents fear this, that their kids might be experimenting with something.
Yeah.
Was that ever an issue?
Well, there was, several months ago to maybe even a year ago, we had discovered him experimenting with cannabis, which, it's legal in California, unfortunately, depending how you look at it. I know it is in Chicago as well.
Mhm.
Um, and, when we found out and confronted him about it, he had a comprehensive report on why the kind he took and the form he took and the way he did it wasn't addictive and, wasn't gonna, like, that's who he was. Like, he was the type that would research a substance before he took it. And, we still didn't say it was okay. And we tested him, when we said, because he was learning to drive, and we said, we can't let you get your license until we feel really confident that you aren't doing any drugs. And so we were checking him regularly and sporadically, and he, was testing clean. And I think somehow he connected with this dealer, and he was bored and full of testosterone and immortality, and probably researched what he thought he was taking, and toxicology reports will confirm what that was, and that it was going to be okay, but he had no idea that it was laced with fentanyl.
What did his friends say that he was looking for? I heard Percocet. Does that sound
He
right?
thought it might be Percocet, but he wasn't sure. And from what I'm hearing from all the other parents and the parenting groups and all the people reaching out to me, fentanyl, I mean, what happens is that it's made in a laboratory. It's a Chinese fentanyl, that there's these labs in Mexico that remake pills and powders, cocaine or whatever, laced with fentanyl, and make them look real. And then you think you're just taking whatever, and you're not. So it's a big, big, big issue.
Mhm. What do you want his legacy to be with all that you're dealing with right now? Or,
I don't know. All I can think about, I mean, the only reason I'm doing this is because I hope that it calls attention to this. I hope, and it already has started to hold Snapchat more accountable. I do want to, and I'm getting a lot of support to sort of, put it in boycott Snapchat until there is a really clear policy to cooperate, and not in their words of, will cooperate, meaning they'll take the page down, but that they care as much about the users themselves as they do about the number of users they have, and that they aren't protecting people who don't want to be found for nefarious reasons. And Snapchat is basically set up for nefarious things, because that's why the kids like it, because there's no record, everything disappears. They don't realize that anyone can take a screenshot, but also it invites that those bad doers. And I want parents to know to talk to your kids about things they're going to get from a drug dealer are not safe and might very well kill them. And if I can help one child not die, then that helps my heart, and that's all I can hope for. And so that's it. Use my son as a teachable moment, because your teenagers very rarely will really take in what you're saying as completely credible at all times, but they do listen to their peers. And if they see my son and they can relate to him and see themselves in him, then maybe it will land what the dangers are.
oh my goodness. What, and then Santa Monica Police, they're investigating, but and they,
I don't know. I mean, they're investigating, they're looking into, it's all in the midst, I'm trying to, that's the other thing. Apple won't give us his password until we get a death certificate. We can't get a death certificate until the coroner's report. We can't get a coroner's report because they have to do the blood test. We can't do the blood test until we get a doctor. There's a backlog because of COVID. There are all of these pieces of red tape to even get into his phone to figure out what happened.
Hmm.
And I did let go. Once they turned 14, I stopped forcing them to give me their passwords. And that was a mistake as well. I wanted them to have a little bit of privacy. I wanted to be able to trust them. I kept keeping an eye on them. I even said to a girlfriend the other day, like, in a weird way, this pandemic has been a gift because my 2 teenagers are trapped in the house safe with me. And I was wrong.
A lot of people remember him, and of course remember you. So
Yeah.
so just so sorry. We
Thank
are
you.
all of us at Channel 7. We're just heartbroken to hear this news. So sending our love, sending our prayers, and respecting your wishes to share this story.
Yeah. I don't want anyone else to go this way.
Thank you, Dr. Laura. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thanks.
Take care.
You too.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.